My parents chose to save my brother instead of me when we were in an accident. I survived, and I just bought the company they work for. My parents had to choose who to save when our heavy truck went into the river. They actively swam right past me in the freezing water just to get to my brother. I was only 16 years old. I had to rip my own seatbelt off and pull myself out of a sinking car. I have never actually told anyone that part of the story out loud until right now. It was a freezing cold Saturday in October in Michigan. My dad was driving his heavy old Chevy truck. My mom was sitting in the front passenger seat. I was sitting in the back seat directly behind my mom. My younger brother Ethan was sitting right behind my dad. He was 13 years old at the time. We were coming home from a long weekend soccer tournament. It had been raining heavily all day long, and the roads were slick. The old road right by the river on Route 12 is incredibly narrow and steep. A large deer suddenly jumped out of the trees. My dad panicked and swerved the wheel hard. The heavy back tires hit a patch of deep mud, and the entire truck slid violently down the steep dirt bank and crashed right into the river. The water was absolutely freezing. I remember the dark cabin of the truck filling up with water so incredibly fast. I remember hearing my mom screaming at the top of her lungs in the front seat. I remember my dad frantically punching the glass window until it broke. The truck slowly flipped and landed hard on its passenger side. My side of the truck was pinned completely down in the rushing water. I was entirely trapped by my jammed seatbelt. I swallowed dirty water and could not breathe. Through the murky water, I could clearly see my mom get out of her seat. I could clearly see my dad kick his way out. I watched them both grab Ethan by his jacket. They pulled him up toward the muddy bank. They did not even look back, and they did not come back for me. I honestly thought they would. I really thought my dad would turn around and reach his hand down for me. I was choking on thick river water. My seatbelt was completely stuck across my chest. I had to feel around blindly to find the red release button with my freezing fingers completely under the water. I deeply cut my hand on a jagged piece of metal. I finally wiggled free, pulled myself out through the back window that had completely shattered, and I swam up to the surface. I crawled up the steep mud on my bare hands and knees. I collapsed on the grass, violently vomiting river water and crying uncontrollably. My parents were sitting right there on the bank, tightly holding Ethan. My mom looked down at me like she was seeing a literal ghost crawl out of the water. "Oh my God, you got out," she said, her voice completely flat. She did not say we thought you were dead. She did not ask if I was okay. It was just, "Oh my God, you got out." We all went to the local hospital in an ambulance. Ethan had a simple broken wrist. I had a severe concussion, deep hypothermia, and a nasty cut on my hand that needed 8 heavy stitches. That night, sitting in the bright hospital room, my dad looked right at the ER nurse and lied. "We honestly thought she was already out," my dad said smoothly. "We thought she got out first." My mom just sat in her chair and nodded in agreement. They never once looked at me and said they were sorry for leaving me in the truck. They never said out loud that they chose him over me. But we all sat in that room and knew exactly what happened. After that night, something in our house completely shifted. I immediately became the strong one. They would proudly tell all their friends and neighbors, "Our daughter is just so incredibly tough. She pulled herself right out of the river." They told it like it was a cool, heroic survival story. Like it was something they had a right to be proud of. They never once pulled me aside and asked how it actually felt to watch your own parents swim right past your drowning body. Ethan got absolutely everything he ever wanted after that. He got a brand new truck when he turned 16. They paid for a private pitching coach for his baseball games. My parents paid for his entire college tuition in cash. I quietly moved out of the house the second I turned 17. I got a brutal job at a massive FedEx warehouse in Kalamazoo, manually loading heavy cardboard boxes from 10 at night until 4 in the morning. I saved every single dollar I made. I went to community college during the day when I was exhausted. I specifically studied shipping logistics because I really liked how the boxes moved. I liked how you could strictly track something from one place to another, and it always arrived exactly where it was supposed to go. I liked being around things that did not just leave you behind. I started my own small logistics company when I was 24 years old. I literally had one single used cargo van. I did last-mile delivery for small local businesses who could not afford the massive FedEx shipping rates. I drove the hot van myself every single day. I slept maybe 3 hours a night on a good week. By the time I was 27, I had 6 vans on the road. By the time I was 30, I had 30 active vans and a huge commercial warehouse. I never once asked my parents for a single dollar of help. They never once offered. They drove out of state to go to Ethan's college baseball games. They never once came to see my warehouse. My parents both work for a regional distribution company called Lakeshore Freight. My dad works as a senior dispatcher. My mom works at a desk in the accounts department. They have both worked there for 19 long years. It is not a massive company. They have about 80 people on payroll, but it was very stable. They were incredibly proud of working there. My dad would proudly wear his embroidered company jacket to every single Thanksgiving dinner. Last year, Lakeshore Freight started seriously struggling. Fuel costs went way up across the board. They suddenly lost two of their biggest client contracts. The owner, an older man named Mr. Hendricks, was tired and desperately wanted to retire and sell the business. I only heard about it from a local truck driver who used to work for me. He told me the company was going under fast and that they might close the doors for good by Christmas. I had just recently sold 20% of my own delivery company to a private investor for a whole lot of money. I did not tell my parents about the sale. I do not tell them anything about my life anymore. I picked up the phone and called Mr. Hendricks directly. I met him for a quiet cup of coffee. I looked through his financial books. His entire struggling company was actually worth less than my standard monthly revenue now. I bought it on the spot. All cash. 100% ownership. It took exactly 30 days for the legal paperwork to close. Absolutely no one at the company knew. I kept the original name on the building. I kept all the employees on the payroll. I did not even go into the office. I just let the current general manager keep running the daily operations. I explicitly told him not to tell a single person who the new owner was until I said so. Yesterday was my very first day walking into the Lakeshore Freight building as the official owner. I wore a plain black jacket. No fancy logos. I asked the general manager to call an urgent all-hands meeting. All 80 people packed into the large break room. My parents were sitting right there in the second row of folding chairs. My mom was casually holding her coffee mug that says World's Best Mom, the exact one Ethan gave her for her birthday in 2019. The general manager stood at the front and cleared his throat. "Everyone, I want you to meet our brand new owner," he announced loudly. "She bought the entire company last month and single-handedly saved all of your jobs here. She wanted to come down and meet you all herself." I slowly walked up to the front of the room. I looked directly at my dad first. Then I looked at my mom. My dad's face went completely chalk white. My mom's hand started shaking so badly that hot coffee actually spilled over the rim and stained her shirt sleeve. "Hi," I said smoothly into the quiet room. "My name is Lauren Miller. I am the new owner of Lakeshore Freight." My dad immediately stood up from his chair. "Lauren," he whispered, looking confused and terrified. My mom just stared at me and asked, "What are you doing here?" "I am here because this is my company now," I said, making sure my voice carried to the back of the room. "I bought it in cash. I own this building, I own all of these trucks sitting outside, and I own your jobs." The entire break room was so incredibly quiet you could actually hear the loud hum of the ceiling heater. 20 years ago, our family truck went into the freezing river on Route 12, I said, looking right into my dad's eyes. "You both had to choose who to save first. You chose Ethan. You swam right past me in the water. I had to rip my own seatbelt off and pull myself out. I was 16 years old. I never forgot what that dirty water tasted like. And I never forgot what it felt like to watch my own parents make a choice to leave me behind." My mom covered her mouth and started crying in front of everyone. "We honestly thought you got out," she sobbed loudly. "We thought you were okay." I shook my head at her. "No," I said calmly. "You just assumed I would be completely fine on my own, because I have always been fine on my own. That is exactly what you taught me that day in the river, that I always have to save myself. I am absolutely not here to fire you," I told them, scanning the crowd. "I am here because for 19 years you told people you work for Lakeshore Freight like it was your family. Well, now you actually work for family. I am your boss. And for the very first time in 20 years, you finally get to feel what it is like to sit there and wonder if someone is going to choose you." I looked over at the general manager and told him to give every single person in the room a raise. I had already approved the paperwork that morning. A flat 10% raise for every truck driver, every dispatcher, and every person sitting in the accounts department. I also told them I was going to put in a massive new safety training program, because I know exactly what it feels like when safety completely fails and absolutely no one comes back for you. After the meeting was over, My parents waited for me in the hallway. My dad stepped forward and tried to wrap his arms around me for a hug. I stepped firmly back away from him. "Do not try to hug me at work," I said coldly. "You can come to my main office tomorrow morning at 9 if you actually want to keep your jobs, and we will sit down and talk about your new contracts, just like any other employees." They came into my office this morning at exactly 9 o'clock. Both of them. They sat awkwardly in the chairs across from my heavy desk. My mom's eyes were completely red and swollen from crying all night. My dad just looked incredibly old and defeated. "We are so sorry," he whispered, staring at his hands. "We have been incredibly sorry every single day for 20 years. We just honestly did not know how to say it to you." He took a shaky breath and said, "We chose Ethan because he was younger, he was smaller, and we just thought you were stronger than him." "I was 16, I told him, keeping my voice completely flat. "I was not stronger. I was just easier to leave behind. I did not fire them today. Firing them would be way too easy. That would just let them go home and play the victims. I kept them on the payroll. I moved my mom over to the customer service desk, where she has to sit on the phone all day and help people who are stranded and desperately waiting for a delivery. I moved my dad over to safety training, where he has to stand in a room and teach new drivers exactly what to do when a heavy truck goes into the water, and how to rigorously check that every single person is safely out before you ever leave the scene. I looked at them across the desk and told them their jobs are perfectly safe as long as they do them well. I told them I will be a very good owner. I will absolutely not leave anyone behind. That is the exact difference between you and me. My dark revenge is not the fact that I bought the company they work for. My dark revenge is that now, every single morning, they have to swipe a badge to get into a building with my name on the top of the paycheck. They have to come to my office and ask me if they can take a day off. And they have to sit at their desks and remember that the teenage daughter they swam past in the freezing river is the sole reason they still have health insurance. Ethan texted my phone late last night. "Mom told me exactly what you did," he wrote. "I honestly did not know it happened like that. I was only 13. I thought you got out first too." I typed my reply and sent it. "I know, I told him. It was never actually about you. I am keeping the company. I am keeping them fully employed. Because the absolute best revenge is not to sink them. It is to make them sit there and watch me float long after they left me to drown."